and thank you for volunteering. Based on what you just said, what do you think some of the things the Charter Committee itself could do to address those issues and improve the situation? I agree with you, but sitting on this side of the table, I agree with you for different reasons. So I'm interested to hear what you mean, or what you would think would be the appropriate approach for this committee to address sort of this overall breakdown I think you've just described.
Well, let me say that when I read the charter, and I had not until recently, I read it looking to see, is there something in the way this is presented that kind of created the dissension? I mean, there's so many symptoms of dysfunctionality. The lack of collaboration, the backstabbing, the demonizing, the inability to have civil disagreements without name-calling and those kind of things. And but what seems like, what would the expression be? Little fiefdoms, little fiefdoms, I don't know how to pronounce that word, you know.
Turfs.
Turfs. Building up what's mine rather than what's ours, having a sense of where I'm as a whole community, what's the best for all of us. Mm-hmm. And I was looking to see, is there something in the charter that creates this or that exacerbates it? And I didn't find that. I don't think we can blame it on the charter. So I don't think that, although I did find a lot of things, many of which have been expressed this very evening, that could be what you call tweaked. I don't think that's going to change the culture of dissension and the split in the community. So I do think it's proper to look to see if it's time to be changing the way we govern ourselves. But I know, Selectman Cronin, you're going to ask if I think it's outdated, and I know I'm not going to be able to answer that because I don't know what that means. I mean, if it means, does it need repair in some way, the answer in my view is yes. But do you mean throw it out, so to speak? You can't do that. I mean, what do you go to? You have to look at any new way of governing, such as what Pat just mentioned, having a mayor, and try to see into the future and envision whether that would be creating problems here that either replicate or are worse than what we have. I mean, you just can't go in knowing what way it can be, but certainly there are things that seem to me could be done that might make things a little easier. Just to name a couple. I don't think I realized until I read it how much you four and Jane, how much you have to do. I can't imagine how many hours. I just cannot imagine how you carry on the business of your jobs and your families and do all that, because there's so many places you have to be and so many decisions you have to make, and that's got to include, if you're going to do it well, a lot of reading and a lot of thinking. And so there may be a way that taking the burden off you of the burden off the selectmen, whoever they are, will reduce some of the anger when you happen to make a decision that some people don't like. It seemed to me that one of the things that somehow that's wrong in the town, if I may, is the misuse of power. And people hear that word and they think abuse, and I don't necessarily mean that, although sometimes it is overusing power or assuming power you don't have. But it seems to me in this town it's often been, let me struggle for the words, power not being used when it ought to be. I mean, misdeeds going not addressed, and there's nothing in the charter now that is specific that talks about how to deal with when things go wrong. I think that could be looked at. I got lost in what I was saying. What did you ask me?
I forget.
You did.
So you answered the question.
I was trying to respond to you, Selectman Cronin, that No, I'm not sure that outdated is the right word.
Okay. Well, you know what? The interpretation of my question, you answered. So for me, you answered my question.
Okay.
And I think you answered some of my question, but I'll ask it. Do you think that the current system of government that we have relies too much on volunteers? I mean, I think that that's and you may not know that, and I'm not saying you have to answer, but I think it's a question that's worth asking. If you look as a cross-section in our government and all the boards and what they're required to oversee, you will notice they're all volunteers, and it's a question of where's the balance? Is it weighted too much to rely on the? It's the same principle.
I think it's an excellent
It's
question.
the same principle with town meeting. You're relying that people will come forward and participate in a system. The same is so for all of the boards and committees that we have. You have to rely that all these people will come forward and do the business of the town. So just throwing that out there.
May I just say that I think that is certainly a question to ask, but it occurs to me that it's how we treat our volunteers that determines whether they're going to stick and do and succeed. Anything else?
Nope.
Well,
Thank you very much for coming
thank you for
forward.
listening.
Thank you.
Okay. So that takes us through this week's Group of 5.